Today we are going to be going over 8.5 and 8.6, which is solving problems involving circumference and area of a circle. So a lot of this should be a review because we learned about circumference and area before state assessments, but we only spent one day on it, and so that's why we're spending more time on it now, hoping that you guys understand it a little more. So today we will learn how to find the circumference and area of a circle. And so right here we have our circle, and it says the radius is the distance from the outside of the circle to the center. So that green line is the radius. Okay, so that's R. And then the diameter is the distance across the circle through the center. So the diameter goes all the way across the circle. Remember, the diameter is twice the radius. So if we want to find the diameter, we just have to multiply whatever the radius is by 2. And so if our radius was 5, that would mean our diameter is 10. Okay, because it has to be double the radius. And then our last vocab word on this page is circumference. And the circumference is the distance around the circle. So it is like perimeter. We're finding the distance around the circle. That is circumference. So our circumference formula is going to be C equals 2 times pi times r. So remember, when we have pi, there's several ways to write it. The first one is just to use the symbol. And you have a pi button on your calculator, but we don't usually use that most of the time because it's not going to simplify it for you. And so that's one way. The other way is 22 over 7. That is the ratio of pi as a fraction. And then the last way, which is the most common, is 3.14, which is rounded. So pi is a never-ending decimal, and we stop at 3.14. That's what we do to round it. So when we solve C equals 2 pi r, instead of using pi, you're going to use 3.14 today. Okay, so this is the main one we're going to be using. Unless your homework assignment tells you to use something different, you're going to use 3.14. But sometimes the homework will tell you to use either pi or 22 over 7. So make sure you're paying attention to that when you get to the homework. So on this first example, on all three of these, we are finding circumference. And it says round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So on all three of these, we're going to round to the nearest tenth if we need to. Some of them we might not need to. So we're finding circumference. So we're going to do C equals 2 times pi times r. That 2 stays the same every time. And so remember, you have the option, it's C equals 2 pi r or C equals pi times d, because 2 times r, that gives you your diameter. So it'd be pi times diameter. So think of it as either one of those. So if we did C equals 2 times pi times r, this 12 represents our diameter. And if I want to know my radius, that would be just half of it. And so my radius would be 6. And so to plug that into my formula, I would have 2 times 3.14 times my radius, which is 6. So it would look like that. So 2 times 3.14 times 6. And then put that into your calculator. And we would get 37 and 6800ths. And it wants us to round to the nearest tenth. So that's the 6. So it'd be 37 and 7/10. And it's just inches. Because it's circumference, we do not square the label. And that's your final answer. So notice we could have just used the 12 and used our C equals pi times d. So it's up to you which one you want to use. So if I used that same formula, C equals 2 pi r on this one, it gives me my radius. So the radius is 9. And so I just have to plug the 9 into my formula. So we'd have 2 times 3.14 times 9. put that in your calculator. And we would get 56 and 52 hundredths. And we got to round it to the tenths place, would be 56 and 5 tenths inches. Would be the answer. So on this next one, we're doing the same thing. Let's use our second formula so you can see what it would look like for that one. So C equals pi times D. Well, I know pi is going to be 3.14. And then it gives me my radius. Okay, and if you're ever confused on that, look back up here. The radius is the half of the diameter. And so if I want to know the full diameter across, it would be 12 times 2, which is 24. So the diameter would be 24. So I would do 3.14 times 24. And we get, in our calculator, 75 and 36 hundredths. And then if we rounded that, it would be 75 and 4 tenths centimeters. So you can use either one of those formulas. Remember, so if it gives you the diameter, I would recommend using the C equals pi times D, and if it gives you radius, I recommend doing it this way, doing C equals 2 pi r. But completely up to you. If you want to find the diameter every time and use that formula, you can. You can choose. So now we're going to be using circumference to find diameter and radius. So we're kind of doing the opposite. So it says find the radius of the Ferris wheel, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So it gives us it gives us the circumference. So we need to use that to find our radius. So we're looking for radius. So that's going to be C equals 2 times pi times r. And then I have to plug in what I know into my formula. So I know the circumference is 220 feet because it tells me right there. So it's going to be 220 equals 2, and then my pi is 3.14 r. So we have to solve that. So my first step, before I draw my line or anything like that, I can multiply 2 times 3.14 on the right side of my equation. So when I do that, I would get 6.28 r, and then on the left side equals 220. And then once I do that, I'm going to solve it by drawing my line down the equal sign, and then I have to do the opposite of what's happening to my variable. So the variable is being multiplied by 6.28, so I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to divide by 6.28. 6.28 divided by 6.28 is 1, so those cancel out. And on the left side, we get 220 divided by 6.28. On the right side, we're left with r, and then you have to actually divide 220 divided by 6.28. It is a long decimal, and it wants us to round to the nearest tenth, so it should be 35.0 is what it would round to, which would just be 35, and it would just be feet. So that's our final answer, but I want you to be thinking, if it was asking us for diameter, what would the diameter be? Remember, diameter is just double the radius, so we would do 35 times 2, and we'd get 70, so our diameter would be 70. Next, if a circumference of a circle is 75 and 36 hundredths, what is its diameter? Round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So now it's asking for diameter, so I'm going to use our other formula, the C equals pi times D. So C equals pi times D. Well, the circumference is 75 and 36 hundredths. So 75 and 36 equals 3.14, because that's what pi is, times D. And now you solve it. So I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign, and I'm going to divide both sides by 3.14. 3.14 divided by 3.14 is 1, so I can cross that out, and I get D on the right side. Then on the left side, I have to divide 75.36 divided by 3.14. And when you put that in your calculator, you should get 24. And it didn't give us a label, and so we're just going to do 24 units is what the diameter would be. Okay. So if 24 is the diameter, which is what it was asking for, so that's our final answer. But remember, if it's asking for a radius, we would divide that by 2, and our radius would be 12. Flip your page over. And now we're going to be doing the area of a circle instead of circumference. So same thing, radius is still half of the diameter. Diameter goes all the way across. Radius is just half of that. Circumference is still all the way around the circle, and then area is the inside of the shape. So we're trying to figure out the area inside of it. So our formula for the area of a circle is A equals pi r squared. So there's no other formula you can use for this one. There's not two options with the diameter. This is your only formula. So that means every time we have to find the radius. And then same way, ways to write pi is pi 22 over 7, and then 3.14, which this is still the most commonly one we're going to use today. So on each of them, we have to know our radius, we have to square it, and we have to multiply it by pi. So find the area of the circle, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So our formula is A equals pi r squared. I know that we're trying to find area, so we're going to have A equals, and then pi is 3.14. And then our radius, it gives us it, and it's 18. So times 18 squared. So then I would put that whole thing in my calculator, but make sure the square is on 18. So I'd do 3.14 times 18 squared in my calculator, and I would get 1,017 and 36 hundredths. And we need to round to the nearest tenth, so that's the 3, and that would be 1,017.4 feet squared. Remember, if we're finding area, we have to square our label. And that's our answer. So on this one, we're doing the same thing, finding the area of the circle and rounding to the nearest tenth if necessary. So same formula, A equals pi r squared. We're trying to find the area, so I'm going to bring down the A. Pi is 3.14. And then I have to find my radius because it gives us the diameter. Remember, we want the radius, which is half of the diameter. So you would do 50 divided by 2, and it would be 25. So our radius is 25, and we still square it. And then you'll put that in your calculator. You'll do 3.14 times 25 squared. And this one is already rounded for us. It's 1,962.5 meters squared. And that's our final answer. On this one, same thing. If you want to try it on your own, do it. Pause the video. Do it on your own, and then you can fast forward to see if you got the correct answer. So, same formula because we're trying to find area. A equals pi r squared. We're trying to find area, so bring the A down. Pi is going to be 3.14. Our radius, so we have to find the radius because it gives us the diameter. We want to know the radius, which is half of the diameter. So you do 26 divided by 2, and you get 13. So 3.14 times 13 squared. Put that in your calculator. And you'd get 530 and 66 hundredths. We need to round that to the tenths place. So 530 and 7 tenths inches squared. On these last two, they are giving us the area, and we have to either find the radius or diameter. It looks like radius on both. So we're using our same formula, A equals pi r squared, but instead of trying to find the area, we need to find the radius. So it says a circle has an area of 153 and 86 hundredths inches squared. What is its radius? So it gives us the area. So we're going to plug that into our formula. So 153.86 equals, and that's going to be 3.14 r squared. So we want to get the r completely by itself. So to do that, we have to divide by 3.14 on both sides. So 3.14, 3.14. 3.14 divided by 3.14 is 1. So we're left with r squared on the right side. And on the left side, we divide. So 153.86 divided by 3.14. And we would get 49. Now, to solve this, we have to get rid of the square. Because it's not saying r equals 49, it's saying r squared equals 49. So we still have to figure out what r is. Okay? So to do that, we need to find the square root of both. So to do that, you draw your square root like that on both sides, because whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. And when you do the square root, we're left with r on the right side. And then on the left side, we have to actually find the square root of 49. So in your calculators, I want you to clear everything out, and then click the second button in the top left. And then you're going to click on the x squared button. And it is going to be, type in 49. So square root of 49 is 7. So 7 equals r is your final answer. Which a lot of you should know. So remember, like 7 squared is 49. We're doing the opposite now and finding the square root of 49. That's how we got 7. And so it'd be 7 inches would be our answer. All right, so same thing on this one. A circle has an area of 254 and 34 inches squared. What is its radius? So our formula is A equals pi r squared. It's giving us the area, and that's 254.34 equals pi is 3.14, and we want to find what our r is. So we're going to divide both sides by 3.14. My goodness. Okay. 3.14 divided by 3.14 is 1. So we get r squared on the right side. On the left side, we have to divide 254.34 divided by 3.14. And we get 81. Now we need to find the square root of both to get rid of the squared. And so on the right side, we're left with just r. On the left side, find the square root of 81. Well, some of you can do this in your head, which is perfect. But if you can't, on your calculator, click the second button. And then click the x squared button, which is in that first row, or first column. And then you type in 81, hit enter. And it should show you 9. So our answer would be 9 inches. Okay. And then today we learned how to find the circumference and area of a circle so that we can work in construction or architecture. because you deal with circles a lot in those types of careers. And then we'll know we learned it when we can teach someone else how to do it. Let me know if you guys have questions. You can email me, message me on rooms, come by in seminar.